Hello and welcome to this video about choosing an Audi Q6 e-tron as a replacement for my current A4 Avant. I'm currently waiting for the delivery of the Q6, which should arrive in January 2025. Is it just because I'm an Audi fanboy? I'm making this video to show how and why I chose this car, and perhaps help you to decide how to choose your next car. My current car is an Audi A4 Avant and I'm still very happy with it. But I plan to close down my company in about 5 years, and so it's time to buy a new car in order to take advantage of the tax benefits before I retire. I would therefore like my next car to last me for something like 12 years, which motivates some of my selection criteria. My annual mileage is relatively low. In the last few years it's been about 8,000 kilometres or 5,000 miles, so 12 years is only around 100,000 kilometres or 60,000 miles. This also motivates the choice of technology. I was initially rather enthusiastic about electric cars. I always said that my next car after the A4 would be an electric car, but later on I became more sceptical, as the technology evolved more slowly than I had expected. The major brands were slow to design fully electric cars. Tesla had a lot of early manufacturing problems, and the growth of the electricity infrastructure has been far too slow. I'm unimpressed by hybrid cars, since it makes no sense to me to have two separate fuel sources and drivetrains for a car. I suspect that these cars will be expensive to service after a few years. Horror stories about electric car fires have also given me pause for thought and remain a concern, so I don't intend to park an electric car inside the garage in my house. I don't think that electric cars will suit everyone's use cases, and I think it is foolish of governments to legislate that all new cars must be electric by 2035, or whatever deadline they choose, but reality will catch up with them at some point and that will have to change. Fully electric cars have a number of advantages, particularly the potential fuel cost savings, mechanical simplicity, lower noise levels and ease of driving. I won't get into any climate-related discussions since the benefits are highly debatable, and this wasn't a major factor in my decision. However, the clincher was that the Belgian tax rules weigh heavily in favour of zero-emission cars, and so I've decided to take the plunge and go fully electric. Fortunately, at last there are several viable models from many of the major car brands, as well as the all-electric new kids on the block, particularly Tesla and BYD, which looked like really good options. Based on all of that, I had a few principles as the starting points for my car search. The main ones are: 1. As mentioned, I'm looking for a fully electric car. I looked a little bit at other kinds, including both regular fossil fuel and hybrids, but I prefer the relative simplicity of the purely electric drivetrain. It has drawbacks, mainly the extra cost, weight and range anxiety, but these are factored in elsewhere. 2. Since I'm going full electric, I want my car to be designed as such. I don't want a useless transmission tunnel blocking the legroom of the rear seats, and more fundamentally I want a chassis that has been designed around the characteristics and requirements of a battery-powered car, without any compromises. This largely eliminated a lot of models that come in both electric and fossil fuel versions. 3. I want to keep this car for a long time, and so I want to have the most recent technology that I can get. There are some very nice cars around, such as the Jaguar I-Pace, but that model is at least 6 years old, and they don't even make it anymore, they're just selling off their remaining stock. Older models have slower charging, lower battery density and less efficient motors, and they will not hold up well in the coming years. 4. The size. I was pretty open to almost anything here. My only absolute requirement is that I need a tow bar so that I can use my bike rack. This eliminates the smallest cars. For example, the Peugeot 208 can't support a tow bar, but the 308 can. Past that, anything mid-sized or bigger is enough for me. 5. The range. This is important because I do take several long journeys each year, returning to England or going away on holidays. I don't want to stop to recharge every 100 miles, so a decent range is a must. Ideally, I would like to achieve 300 miles in practice, which would take me from my home to my parents without recharging. 6. The brand had to strike me as convincing in the EV market. This means in particular that they need to have good representation and support in my country of residence, Belgium. This worked against BYD, for example. Also, if a brand only has one solitary electric model, that put me off because I don't think they will have the experience or sales volumes to make a reliable electric offering, and this eliminated a few brands such as Alfa Romeo, Honda and Lexus. 7. The first 6 principles were all objective and quantifiable, but the last one is emotional. I have to like the car. It's pretty obvious, but it's very important, and I am prepared to go a long way to satisfy this one. My next car will probably be the pinnacle of my lifetime of car ownership, and I plan to keep it for a long time, so I need to really like it. I think it's important to clarify what you want when you're looking for a car, because this will help you to eliminate a lot of options and zoom in on what's really going to satisfy all of your criteria. Those were my main criteria, and I'd encourage anyone looking for a new car to think hard about their own criteria, which will probably be different in some ways. On top of these, there were a lot of other things that I would want or expect in a new car, such as adaptive cruise control or a rear parking camera, but those are details. As food for thought, here are some lists of possible considerations in different categories that you might want to take into account. Pause the video if you want to read the full lists, and let me know in the comments if you have other criteria that I've missed. I've sorted these criteria into a number of different categories. They are purchase and running, driving, technology, practicality, temperature control, safety, and look and feel. I've watched a lot of reviews on YouTube and looked at some reviews on websites. They are interesting and helpful, although you need to bear in mind that the mainstream auto journalists won't be too critical of the cars they review, because they rely on the goodwill of the manufacturers to allow them access to the new models. I looked at all of the websites for about 40 different brands. I was surprised that there are so many. You can see the list on the screen now. Some of them were quickly eliminated if they don't sell cars in Belgium, don't have any electric car models, or are simply too expensive. For example, I love a couple of the Lotus models, the Electra and the Emira, but they are above my budget. I drew up a long list of possibilities, again about 40 different cars, and then visited the showrooms for most of these brands. There were some disappointments and some pleasant surprises along the way. Jaguar was a major disappointment, for example. As I mentioned, they only have the I-Pace, which is virtually obsolete. Closely related to that is my second placed car from the last time I was car hunting in 2015, the Land Rover Evoque. It's still a handsome car and it's been upgraded, but they have no full electric models. I can't help thinking that Jaguar Land Rover look in bad shape at the moment, and I hope they can pull their socks up in the near future. I was also disappointed by the Japanese brands like Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Lexus and Mazda. They seem to be half-hearted at best in the fully electric market, with rather unimpressive offerings, such as the shared car that is the Toyota BZ4X and the Subaru Solterra, with some cosmetic differences. There were a couple of pleasant surprises from China. I liked the looks and apparent quality of the BYD cars, which seem to stand up against more expensive cars from other brands. They have slightly quirky styling, perhaps a bit gimmicky, but it's good to have new ideas in the design space. I was also very impressed by the MG4, which looks like an excellent option in its price range. Cheap for electric cars, although still quite a lot of money in absolute terms. The interior is functional rather than attractive, and I've seen comments about lots of intrusive warning sounds when you're driving. But on the specifications and looks, it made its way onto my shortlist at the bottom end of the price range. On general principles, I would prefer to buy a European car rather than a Chinese one, but I hope that the increased competition will keep the European brands on their toes in this market. The Peugeots were another positive surprise. Peugeot has clearly upped its game in the interior design, and the ones I saw were good places to sit as the driver. Also, Dacia has brought out the Spring, which looks like a great option at the cheaper end of the market, so it gets a shout out, although I wasn't really interested in that segment. Let's talk about the big three Germans, Audi, BMW and Mercedes. Mercedes has a good range of electric cars going from the EQA to the EQE. They look competent and professional, but I always find Mercedes a bit too corporate and over-engineered. Capable, no doubt, but they don't really strike a chord with me. BMW is still very much in the process of changing from ICE to electric cars. It has some really nice looking models. My favourites were the i4 and the iX1. The interiors are very well designed, with two issues that I noticed. Firstly, I didn't like the view out of the windscreen. I'm not really sure why, but the view down the bonnet was weird. Also, in at least two of the models, the main console screen was off-centre with regards to the steering wheel, and that would always jar. The iX1 also shares its platform with the fossil fuel version, which put me off slightly. Audi has the advantage of being part of a large group with many brands, Porsche, Audi, Volkswagen and Skoda to name but a few. It shares platforms across its brands, and this allows the group to have several attempts at the same market. The Skoda Enyaq Coupe, for example, was a great looking car, although it is expensive and the price difference between that and its nominally higher quality equivalents in the other brands, such as the Audi Q4, is pretty small. I went to the Audi garage hoping to see the new Q6, having watched several reviews of it. On that first visit they didn't have one in the showroom, since it's still a very new model. I really liked the interior of the Q4 though, which is also amply big enough for my needs. A few days later they had a Q6 in the showroom, and that's also a stunning car on the inside, with a new style of interior design. So how do they all stack up against my criteria? In the end, there were not many brands and cars that fulfilled all of them. These would include the VW Audi group, BMW for some models, possibly Mercedes, Hyundai, Peugeot, Tesla and possibly MG. My shortlist came down to something like the Audi Q4 and Q6, the BMW i4, the Tesla Model Y and the MG4. Most of these models, apart from the Audi Q6 and the MG4, have been around for at least a couple of years though, and this, together with the superb interior, made me confirm my initial positive view of the Q6, despite a very tempting discount on the Q4. If I were looking for a regular company car to keep for around 4 or 5 years, I would probably go for the cheaper Q4, but since I want to keep my new car for a long time, I've ordered a Q6 e-tron. I hope this has been interesting to anyone thinking about a similar change, and it might help to clarify what your reasons are for choosing a new car. I'll be interested to read your comments below, and I can't wait to get my new Q6 e-tron in January 2025. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.